Once upon a time, there lived a young woman who lived for her sisters. Her name was Charity, and she was the first daughter of her mother, who died and left them in the care of their father. When their mother died, the entire household fell into silence. Her father remarried 6 months later, and his new wife asked that he send his 3 daughters away. Charity was only 17 but had to take up the responsibility of her sisters. Her father, weak and desperate to please his new wife, sent his 3 daughters to go live with his sister Auntie Bridget, promising that it was for their own good. However, what awaited them there was far from good. From the very first day they arrived at Auntie Bridget's house, Charity became her sister's mother. Her aunt turned them into housemaids, scrubbing floors, washing heaps of clothes, cooking for her husband's endless guests, and sleeping on the thin mat near the kitchen. Her 2 younger sisters, Rita and Kate, often cried at night, begging to go home, but Charity would hold them close and comfort them, assuring them that they would be fine. While Auntie Bridget's daughters went to private schools, Charity and her sisters were left to hawk vegetables in the street. Yet, no matter how cruel life was, Charity shielded her sisters from every blow. If the food was little, she gave them her share. If punishment came, she took the blame. If tears fell, she wiped them with her own sleeve. Charity carried her sisters like a mother, a father, and a friend. She vowed to protect them, even if it was the last thing that she did. One day, her auntie returned from work and accused them of stealing her money. Filled with so much anger, she called some street boys to deal with them. Charity fell on her knees instantly, tears streaming down her face as she begged, "Auntie, please, we didn't take your money. I swear on my mother's grave, we didn't." But Auntie Bridget was too blinded by anger to listen. Her eyes were wild, her voice sharp like broken glass. "Liar! I fed you, I clothed you, gave you a roof over your head, and this is how you repay me?" She screamed, pointing towards the door. "They'll teach you all a lesson that you would never forget." Moments later, 4 street boys barged into the compound, faces hard, eyes hungry for trouble. Before the girls could run, one of them slapped Kate so hard that she fell to the ground. Rita screamed, trying to shield her sister, but another boy shoved her into the wall. Charity fought like a lioness. She jumped in front of them, shouting, "Please, beat me, not them. Leave my sisters alone." The boys grabbed her by the hair, dragging her outside. They slapped her, kicked her, and left her bleeding in the yard, while her sisters wept helplessly. When the boys were done, Auntie Bridget stood over them, breathing heavily. "That's what happens to thieves," she spat, before slamming the door and walking inside. That night, Charity could barely move. Her face was swollen, her lips cut, but still, she crawled to where her sisters sat, trembling, and pulled them close. "Don't cry, eh? As long as I'm alive, no one will ever touch you again." Charity did so many menial jobs to save her sisters from the hand of her wicked aunt. She saved up her money for years and got a small apartment for her sisters and herself. Charity moved out of her wicked auntie's house with her sisters. She got a better job months later and began to earn a decent salary. Charity enrolled her sisters in school. She was only fortunate to finish her secondary education before their mother passed. So, she decided to enroll her sisters in school, hoping that doing so would assure them a decent life. However, her sisters did not take life seriously. They skipped classes at every given turn, following boys up and down, whilst Charity worked her ass off. One day, the school called Charity to inform her that her sister Kate collapsed in the school premises and was rushed to the hospital. Charity abandoned all that she was doing and rushed to the hospital, where she was told that her sister tried to carry out an abortion that was unsuccessful. If she wasn't brought in the time that they did, she would have died, the doctor said to Charity, who could not believe that her sister was pregnant. Days later, she was discharged from the hospital still pregnant. The doctors advised that if she ever did anything to get rid of the baby, she might die in the process, so Kate decided to keep the pregnancy. Charity could not believe her ears. The sisters, who she had worked tirelessly for, had thrown all her sacrifices away like dirt. Charity sat by the hospital bed, staring at Kate, her eyes filled with pain, disappointment, and heartbreak. The girl she had raised like her own child, the one she starved for, fought for, and carried through every storm, was now lying weak, pregnant, and barely alive. "Kate, how could you?" Charity whispered, her voice trembling. "You promised me you'd focus on your future. You promised me you would not make the same mistakes others make." Kate looked away, her voice small. "I didn't mean for it to happen, sister. I was just lonely. He said he loved me." Charity felt her heart shatter. She wanted to scream, to weep, to curse the world. But instead she took a deep breath and said, "You will have this baby, and I will take care of you again." And that was exactly what she did. The months that followed were hard. Charity worked double shifts, took on menial cleaning jobs after work, and sometimes went without food just to provide for her sisters. Rita, the second sister, watched silently. Instead of learning from Kate's mistake, she became even more rebellious. While Charity cared for the pregnant Kate, Rita began to spend her nights outside, partying with friends and coming home smelling of alcohol and regret. One night, Charity confronted her. "Rita, please," she begged, "don't let me lose you too. I can't go through this again." Rita rolled her eyes. "I beg, Charity, rest. You are not my mother. I'm tired of you controlling my life. You think because you suffered for us, you can talk to us anyhow?" Those words pierced Charity like a knife. That night, when everyone slept, she went outside, sat on the stairs and cried quietly into her palms. Her tears fell like rain, not just from exhaustion, but from the realization that love, no matter how deep, cannot always change the hearts of others. Kate eventually gave birth to a baby boy, and her sister Charity took care of him like her own son. However, as soon as Kate recovered, she began to change. She started sneaking out again, leaving the baby with Charity, whose life she threw into a complete mess. One morning, Charity woke up to discover that her sister Kate had vanished. She left a note on the table, saying that she was not cut out for a life with a child. "I can't do this anymore," the letter said, blaming Charity for making her keep the baby. "Since you want a child so desperately, I dash you. Keep him or do whatever. I don't care," the letter said, as Charity collapsed to the floor and screamed until her voice broke. She could not believe that Kate abandoned her own son, knowing how many jobs she had to do to make ends meet. Charity could not understand how she would go to work with a newborn baby. She pleaded with her other sister Rita to stay at home and care for the child while she goes to work, but Rita declined, saying that she was not a nanny. "If you want someone to look after the child, employ a nanny," she said to Charity, who stood there shocked to hear such a suggestion from her own sister. The next morning, Charity strapped the child to her back. She carried him to work, hoping and praying that nothing bad happens to her job. Charity was so terrified. She needed a job and could not stand losing it, not at a time like this. Luckily for her, the baby did not disturb her at work. He slept most of the day, giving Charity the time to do her work efficiently. People often pitied her. Some offered her money to ease her burden, whilst others whispered and called her a prostitute who got pregnant out of wedlock. However, Charity did not care. The child was innocent, after all, and Charity refused to let him suffer for his mother's mistakes. As the months turned into years, the child grew into a handsome young boy who called her mother instead of auntie. Meanwhile, Rita's life took a turn for the worst. She quit the tailoring business that she just started, claiming that she wanted to make quick money. Charity begged her to stay focused, but Rita waved her off. She joined friends who flaunted flashy lifestyles online, wearing borrowed clothes and posting pictures in hotels that she did not pay for. One day, she told Charity that she had found a business that would change their lives forever, an online investment scheme that promised triple returns in 1 week. Charity warned her, "Rita, there is no shortcut to success. Don't let greed ruin you." But Rita laughed. "You think everyone must suffer like you? I'm not built for poverty. I'm for the soft life." She borrowed a huge sum of money from a neighbor, promising to return it with profit in days. But within a week, the Ponzi scheme crashed, the website disappeared, and so did all the money that she invested in the scheme. The neighbors stormed their home, asking for her money, but Rita had no money to give. The police got involved and arrested Rita, who was given an ultimatum to pay back the money in a week. Charity, unable to see her sister rot in jail, ran from one person to the other, begging and borrowing money to bail her sister out. 3 days later, Rita was finally released. They arrived home and Charity decided to speak to her about what she did. She narrated how she borrowed money from people and how this has put her in debt. But Rita, instead of being grateful, glared at her and said, "Did I ask you to? Did I put a gun to your head and force you to bail me out?" Charity froze, her mouth open in disbelief. For a long moment, she could not speak. The weight of her sacrifices came crashing down on her like waves. All the night she went hungry, the insults she endured, the years she spent fighting for them, were all reduced to nothing. "Rita, after everything I've done for you, all the sacrifices I made for you, you talk to me like this?" Rita shrugged. "I beg, I'm tired of your emotional blackmail. Just stop it." Charity stood there confused as she watched Rita stroll to her room. She stood there speechless, staring at the closed door, her chest rising and falling with silent pain. That night, she sat by her window, the baby asleep in her arms, and whispered, "Maybe my kindness was a mistake. Maybe some people are not meant to be saved." Weeks turned into months, and though life was still hard, a small light began to shine in Charity's world. One afternoon, while she served food at the restaurant, a well-dressed man walked in. His name was Mr. Chuka, a handsome, wealthy entrepreneur. Unlike other customers, Chuka was polite. He noticed how hardworking and graceful Charity was, even with a child strapped to her back. He watched her gently serve everyone before herself, her smile never fading despite exhaustion. When he came back the next day and the next, Charity began to notice him too. Soon they started talking. He learned her story and he admired her deeply. One evening, he asked if he could take her out to dinner. "Me? Dinner?" Charity laughed shyly. "Sir, I'm not used to all of that though." "I'm not asking for perfection," he replied warmly. "I just want to know the woman who still smiles through pain." That night, for the very first time in years, Charity wore a simple gown and left her son with a kind neighbor. Chuka treated her like a queen, opening doors, pulling out chairs, listening to every word that she said as though her voice were music. For once, Charity felt seen, valued and safe. Their friendship blossomed into affection. He would visit her often, bringing gifts for her child and always insisting that she deserved better. Charity's heart, once guarded by pain, slowly began to open, but not everyone was happy. One weekend, Chuka decided to pay her a surprise visit. He arrived at her house and met her sister Rita, who could not believe her eyes. Before her was the most handsome man she had ever seen. Tall, neatly dressed, with the kind of quiet confidence that spoke of wealth and power. "Good afternoon," Chuka said, smiling. "I'm here to see Charity. I hope I'm not too early." Rita's mind raced. This fine man? For Charity? Impossible! She adjusted her hair, forcing a sweet smile. "Oh, Charity? She's not around right now. I'm her sister Rita. You can wait for her inside, if you don't mind." Chuka stepped in politely, the scent of his expensive perfume filling the small living room, and Rita's heart skipped. She stared at his wristwatch, his shoes, his calm demeanor, and instantly, envy began to grow like poison in her veins. As he sat, Rita started the conversation. "My sister didn't tell me that she had such a charming friend," she said, crossing her legs. Chuka smiled politely. "Charity's a wonderful woman. She talks a lot about her family, especially about her sisters." That sentence made Rita's blood to boil. "Really?" she said, feigning a laughter. "I hope she hasn't told you too many lies. My sister likes to pretend." Chuka looked puzzled. "Lies? What do you mean?" Rita leaned closer, lowering her voice like someone about to reveal a secret. "I shouldn't be saying this, but I don't want you to be deceived. Charity isn't who you think she is. That child she calls her nephew is actually her son. The father ran away years ago. She hides behind this innocent act to get pity and money." Chuka frowned. "Rita, that can't be true." She smiled slyly. Believe what you want, but ask her. She's good at playing victim. Everyone in this area knows the truth. When Charity returned later that evening, she was surprised to find Chuka distant and cold. He left abruptly after a few polite words, and from that day, he never called her again. Charity could not understand why. She cried for weeks, wondering what went wrong. Meanwhile, Rita began to post pictures online of expensive gifts, perfume, shoes, and dresses, claiming that she had finally met someone who understood her worth. What no one knew was that she had gone after Chuka, pretending to apologize on her sister's behalf. She seduced him with charm, lies, and beauty, hoping to secure a rich husband. Rita did not care that her actions hurt her sister. To her, wealth and power were all that mattered. She saw Chuka as her escape from the life of poverty that had always haunted her shadow. Within months, her persistence paid off. Chuka, though initially hesitant, was eventually swayed by Rita's beauty, confidence, and endless flattery. She said everything he wanted to hear, painting herself as the supportive, ambitious woman who he deserved. She told him Charity had issues, that she was manipulative and obsessed with playing the victim. Slowly, Chuka believed her lies, and then one evening he proposed. It wasn't romantic. He simply said, "Rita, I think you're the kind of woman I can build with. Let's make it official." Rita's heart leapt with pride. She screamed in excitement, hugging him tightly. "Yes, oh yes, Chuka, I'll marry you," she said. That night, she danced in the mirror, her eyes glistening with victory. "I've won," she whispered. Charity can keep her tears. "I got the man." When Charity found out, it felt like her world collapsed. The very man who once said that she was the strongest woman he'd ever met was now engaged to her sister, the same sister who had betrayed her countless times. She locked herself in her room and cried for hours. Her chest burned with pain. She could not eat. She could not sleep. For the first time in her life, Charity felt completely defeated. A few weeks later, Rita showed up at her door wearing a bright red dress and a triumphant smile. "Charity," she said, dropping a brown envelope on the table. "That's for you." Charity blinked. "What's this?" "Money," Rita said, tilting her chin arrogantly. "Consider a payment for all the years that you fed and clothed me. I don't want you to ever say that I didn't appreciate you for what you did. Take it, use it for yourself, and stop acting all childish." Charity stared at her sister in disbelief. "You think money can pay for everything I went through? The nights I went hungry so you could eat? The tears I shed praying for you?" Rita smirked. "Please, Charity, save the drama. Not everyone wants to live in misery like you. Some of us actually move on." She turned and walked away, leaving Charity trembling. That night, Charity whispered to herself, "No more tears. I've given too much. It's time to leave for me." And that was the beginning of her transformation. Charity started a small catering business with the little that she had. Slowly, through hard work and prayer, she grew it into a thriving business. Years later, she catered for an event where she met the sitting governor of the state. Charity was given a huge contract to cater for the governor's house. She did her job diligently and found favor in the eyes of the governor, who was impressed not only by her food but by her humility and grace. The governor's wife adored her instantly, and soon Charity became the official caterer for all state events. Her business flourished beyond imagination. She expanded, hired staff, and even opened her own restaurant, Charity's Kitchen, one of the most talked about eateries in town. For the first time in her life, she did not have to worry about survival. Her son Quento grew up intelligent and well-behaved, a reflection of the love and discipline she poured into him. One evening, as she supervised a private dinner for the governor's friend, a kind, soft-spoken man approached her. His name was Dr. Tini, and he owned one of the biggest hospitals in the state. He was gentle, deeply respectful, and seemed genuinely drawn to Charity's calm nature. "I've seen people with success, but I've never seen someone carried with so much grace." Charity laughed shyly. "Doctor, grace is all I have. Life already took the rest." From that night, a quiet friendship began. He visited her restaurant often, always finding an excuse to check on her. Months later, he confessed that he admired her resilience and wanted to build a future with her. Charity hesitated at first. The scars of her past still raw, but his sincerity slowly melted her fears. He loved her for who she was, not for what she'd been through, and when he proposed, she said yes with tears of gratitude. Our wedding was simple, filled with laughter, love, and peace. For once, Charity walked down the aisle without carrying anyone's burden but her own joy. Her son Quento walked beside her in a little suit, proudly holding her hand. Her life was finally beautiful. Charity had a loving husband, a flourishing business, and a home filled with peace. But one morning, the past came knocking again. Her phone rang. It was her sister Rita. Her voice was shaky, almost unrecognizable. "Sister, please, I need to see you. I'm dying." Charity froze. "Rita, what's going on?" "Please," Rita sobbed. "I don't know what's wrong with me. I am dying," she said as Charity asked for her location. Charity dropped everything she was doing and rushed out of her house. Her heart pounded as she drove through the busy streets, whispering prayers under her breath. When she arrived at the address, her hands trembled so badly that she could barely open the car door. There, in a small dark room that smelled of decay and sickness, lay Rita, her once vibrant, beautiful sister, now a shadow of herself. Her skin was pale and dry, her eyes hollow, her body covered in strange rashes. The moment she saw Charity, she burst into tears. "Sister," she said weakly, "I'm finished. I'm dying, and no doctor knows what's wrong with me." Charity rushed to her side, clutching her hands in horror. "Rita, what happened to you? You're burning up. We need to get you to a hospital now." Rita shook her head slowly, tears streaming down her face. "I've been to hospitals, private ones, even herbal homes, but no one has been able to cure my sickness." Charity's heart sank as she asked after her husband Chuka. Rita's expression turned to terror. She narrated to her sister that Chuka was the reason why she was in this predicament. "He made me sleep with a dog, sister. He made me do it. I was so unconscious and I could not stop it. Chuka is not the kind of man that I thought he was," she said to her sister Charity, who asked where he was, but Rita seemed not to know. "Sister, everyone thought Chuka was a businessman, but he wasn't. He was a ritualist, a man who made wealth through blood. The night I found out, he came home drenched in something thick and dark. I thought it was engine oil, but it wasn't. It was blood. He told me not to ask questions, that everything he did was for our future. I tried to run away, but he caught me. That night, he used me for his final ritual. Chuka blew a powder to my face that made me feel dizzy. He knelt in front of a black pot, chanting my name as a strange dog did strange things to me." Charity gasped, covering her mouth in horror. Rita sobbed uncontrollably. "I didn't even understand what had really happened until my health began to fail. My hair began to fall out. My skin started to burn as if fire lived under it. The doctors could not explain it." Rita coughed violently, clutching her chest. Her breathing came in gasps as she continued weakly. "Sister, it's like I'm rotting from the inside. Sometimes I can feel something crawling under my skin. I see shadows in my sleep, dogs barking around me, even when I'm alone." Charity trembled, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Jesus Christ. Rita, why didn't you tell me earlier? We could have helped you." Rita shook her head, her voice breaking. "I was ashamed, sister. I thought I could handle it. I thought if I prayed that it would go away. But now, I know that this is my punishment for betraying you, for lying to you, for destroying everything you ever gave me." Charity fell to her knees beside the bed, holding Rita's trembling hands. "Rita, don't talk like that, please. You're my sister. I forgive you long ago." Rita looked into her sister's eyes, whispering, "Please, take care of yourself and the child. Don't let the darkness that took me touch you." Her eyes glistened with regret. "You were the mother we never had, and I repaid you with evil. Please forgive me." Before Charity could speak, Rita's body went still. Her hand grew cold in Charity's palm. Charity screamed, "Rita, no!" She shook her sister's body, but there was no response. Her cries filled the tiny room until the neighbors rushed in, but it was already too late. Rita was gone. Days later, Charity buried her sister quietly. No crowd, no music, just tears and a short prayer. Life, once again, demanded that she carry pain with grace. Months passed and Charity tried to move on. She focused on her business, her husband, as well as her son Quento. However, one morning, she received a strange visitor, her sister Kate, who abandoned her son with her years ago. It was a bright Saturday morning when Charity opened the door and froze in shock. Standing before her was Kate, the sister who had abandoned her newborn son years ago. She looked different now, thinner with expensive-looking braids and a handbag that screamed wealth. Yet, her eyes betrayed something else: guilt, desperation, and a storm that she was trying so hard to hide. "Sister," Kate's voice trembled as tears gathered in her eyes. "Please, can we talk?" Charity's heart clenched. For a moment, she did not move. She just stared at the woman who had left her to raise a child that she did not birth. A woman who had vanished without a word, leaving behind chaos and pain. After a long pause, Charity stepped aside and invited her into her house. Kate walked in slowly, scanning the beautiful home that now spoke of success. She stared at the polished floors, the gold-framed pictures of Charity, her husband and her son Quento, who was now 17 and in the university. "Sister," Kate began softly, wrinkling her hands, "I didn't come here to fight. I came because..." She swallowed hard. "I need to see my son." Charity's expression froze. "Your son?" Kate nodded. "Yes, I got a letter from a lawyer. It's about his father's estate." Charity frowned, confused. "His father? You mean the man that abandoned you years ago?" Kate nodded as tears poured down her eyes. "He's dead. He died 6 months ago and left behind a will. In it, he mentioned my son Quento. His lawyer traced me through my old records." She opened her handbag and pulled out a brown envelope. Inside was a neatly typed letter from a reputable law firm that read, "We write to inform you that Mr. Kelvin Okon, now deceased, left a substantial inheritance to his son Quento to be held in trust by his legal guardian until the child reaches 21 years of age. Kindly appear at our chambers with proof of guardianship." Charity read the letter slowly, her hands trembling. She looked up at Kate in disbelief as she began to speak. "So that's why you came back?" Kate broke down in tears. "No, sister, please, you won't understand. I'm in a very big mess," Kate said as she fell to her knees, trembling as she began to speak. "Sister, I didn't just come here for the inheritance. I came because I have nowhere else to go. My life is falling apart. The man I told you about, the one who promised me everything, used me, introduced me to drugs, and this damaged my life completely. He was a drug dealer, sister," Kate continued, her voice shaking. "I thought he loved me, but I was just another tool for his business. When the police raided his apartment 2 years ago, they found everything: the drugs, the money, and me." Her tears flowed freely now. "I tried to explain that I didn't know, but nobody believed me. They said I was his partner. I was sentenced to 3 years in prison." Charity's eyes widened in shock. "You went to jail?" Kate nodded slowly, shame burning through her face. "Yes, I spent 3 years behind bars. 3 years of hell. I was beaten, mocked, and starved. The walls closed in on me every night. I saw women die in front of me. I begged God for death, but he kept me alive. The only thing that gave me strength was the memory of you and the son that I abandoned." She broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "I wanted to write to you, but I didn't have the courage. How could I? After all the pain I caused you, after walking away and leaving you to raise my child, I thought about Quento every single day. I counted the days till I could come home, but when I finally did, I had nothing left. No family, no money, no home, just shame." Charity stood silently, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her heart was breaking all over again. "Kate, after all I went through for you, after all the nights that I cried for you and this child, why, Kate? Why didn't you just come home?" Kate raised her face, her eyes swollen and red. "Because I was scared. I thought you slammed the door in my face. I thought you would never forgive me." Just then, footsteps echoed behind them. Quento walked in, tall and handsome, his calm eyes narrowing as he looked at the strange woman kneeling before his mother. "Mom, who is this?" he asked. Charity's voice trembled. "Quento, this is your mother." Kate looked up slowly, her lips quivering. "My son," she whispered. "Please forgive me." Quentin froze. He had heard stories, but never imagined the day would come. "You?" he said quietly. "You're the one who left me?" Kate nodded, tears falling onto the floor. "Yes, my son. I was foolish. I was young and blind. I let the world destroy me, but I've paid for it. Every second of my life. Prison took my freedom, but guilt took my soul. Please, even if you can't call me mother, let me see you smile once. Let me know that you forgive me before I die." The room fell silent. Charity's eyes were filled with tears as she watched her son walk slowly towards Kate. For a moment, no one moved. Then, to everyone's shock, Quentin knelt down beside his mother and said softly, "I don't know how to call you mother, but I forgive you because my mother here," he looked at Charity, "taught me how to forgive." Kate let out a painful sob and pulled him into her arms, trembling as though afraid that he might vanish. "Thank you, my son. Thank you." Later that week, Charity and Kate went together to the lawyer's office. The inheritance papers were ready. The lawyer smiled as he read from the file. According to the will, the inheritance will be handed over to the child's legal guardian, the one who raised him. He turned to Charity. "That will be you, Mrs. Charity Okafor." Kate nodded through her tears. "That's how it should be," she said quietly. "You were the mother he needed when I failed him. He deserved everything good in this world." Charity placed a gentle hand on her sister's shoulder. "You don't need to be ashamed anymore, Kate. You've suffered enough. What matters now is that you're free and alive." Months passed, and Kate began to work at Charity's restaurant, cleaning tables and washing dishes. She arrived early, left late, and never complained. Slowly, she began to rebuild her bond with Quentin, who called her Auntie Kate. One afternoon, the lawyer arrived at Charity's office to finalize the inheritance. He smiled and handed her the document. According to the will, all assets will be transferred to the guardian, Mrs. Charity Okafor, until the boy turns 21. Kate watched from the corner, her eyes full of tears, but this time not of envy, of gratitude. She turned to Charity and whispered, "You deserve it all, sister. Everything." Charity looked at her and smiled faintly. "What I deserve is peace, and I finally have it." That night, the three of them sat around the dining table for the very first time in years, not as broken pieces of a shattered past, but as a family, slowly learning to heal. And for the first time, Charity's heart felt light, knowing that even after all the pain, love had found its way back home. The lesson to be learned from this story is that love is not defined by blood, but by sacrifice. Charity's life teaches us that true motherhood is not just about giving birth, but also about giving everything: your time, your strength, and your heart, even when the world gives nothing in return. It also reminds us that no matter how deeply we are betrayed, forgiveness brings freedom, not to the one forgiven, but to the one who forgives. In the end, Charity's unwavering goodness became her greatest blessing, proving that no act of love, no matter how painful, is ever wasted.